What is schizophrenia? First, let's start with the stigma. People who have schizophrenia are often portrayed in movies and TV shows as violent and dangerous individuals who need to be locked up because they control their behavior or worse, yet are simply made up for dramatic effect. Nothing could be further from the truth. In reality, people with schizophrenia are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators of violence. They don't even pose an increased risk to the safety of others above the general population. In fact, studies have shown that only 5% of violent crime is committed by people with schizophrenia. There's a big underground culture of people with schizophrenia who actively reject the medical model of their illness and treatment. They see themselves as part of a minority group that's being persecuted and discriminated against. In some cases, people stop taking their meds and even reject therapy because of the side effects, and in some cases, what they perceive as disrespect from the mental health care system. This is not uncommon. The next point, the medication might be worse than the illness. There's this misconception that taking medications for mental health conditions is like taking medications for physical health conditions, where the side effects are usually mild. In reality, psychiatric medications can have very significant side effects. A lot of people who take antipsychotics develop tardive dyskinesia, which is involuntary movements of the mouth, face, arms, legs, body. Some develop significant weight gain, diabetes, high cholesterol. For other people, the side effects involve sexual dysfunction. It's no wonder why many people with schizophrenia reject treatment. Now, if you are one of those people who has schizophrenia and has rejected treatment because of the side effects, I want you to know there are other options besides traditional antipsychotics. There's a newer class of antipsychotics called the atypical antipsychotics, which have less side effects. And if you're worried about the side effects of the medication you're taking, please talk to your doctor about switching you to another antipsychotic. Also, there are ways to manage the symptoms of schizophrenia without medications. Next, vulnerable. People with schizophrenia are especially vulnerable when they're not living with supportive family or friends. They're more likely to end up homeless or in jail or dead. What do I mean by that? Well, when someone doesn't have the support of family or friends, it's much harder to get the treatment that's needed to manage schizophrenia. And without treatment, schizophrenia is a very disabling illness. People may end up losing their jobs and become homeless. If they're arrested for public disorder or loitering because of their bizarre behavior, they may end up in jail. Sadly, people with schizophrenia die prematurely. On average, they only live to age 59, which is significantly lower than the general population. Another tragic outcome of schizophrenia is something called treatment resistance. That's when people don't respond to multiple medications at effective doses. It's estimated that between 25% and 35% of people with schizophrenia are treatment resistant. There's a subset of schizophrenia called negative schizophrenia. These are individuals who have diminished capacity across 3 domains, and those are the domains of emotions, behaviors, and social interaction. So imagine someone who just doesn't care anymore, who doesn't feel motivated to do anything, who's emotionally numb. That would be an example of negative syndrome. People with negative schizophrenia tend to have poorer outcomes, and are more likely to be disabled. The next point, care in the community. When you think of schizophrenia, you might think of people living in institutions, but most people with schizophrenia actually live in the community. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, estimates that over 60% of adults with schizophrenia live in the community. Unfortunately, access to community-based mental health services is limited, especially in rural areas. One barrier to community-based treatment is the cost. Schizophrenia is an expensive illness to treat, not only because of the cost of healthcare, but also because of the decreased productivity and disability. In fact, the total cost of schizophrenia in the United States alone is estimated to be over $63 billion annually. This includes the cost of inpatient and outpatient services, as well as medications, disability, and lost productivity. In spite of the tremendous personal, financial, and societal costs associated with schizophrenia, there's hope. If schizophrenia is diagnosed early and treated aggressively, many people can lead productive lives. Even though the course of the illness is variable, with some people having good days, weeks, or even months, the overall trend is for worsening as time goes on. However, early intervention can slow the progression of the illness and improve outcomes. Finally, the last point is the Holy Spirit. Yes, I said the Holy Spirit. I believe the Holy Spirit plays a role in mental health. But not everyone agrees with me. I'm not going to get into the theological debate about this. Instead, I'll focus on what the Holy Spirit means to me. When I think of the Holy Spirit, I think of hope. Hope gives us the strength to keep going when we're feeling hopeless. It gives us the courage to reach out for help when we're afraid. It gives us the faith to believe that we can get better when all we see is darkness. I tell my friends that God created them and He doesn't make junk. We all have value and purpose, and we're all capable of great things. I say this because sometimes my people see themselves as broken, defective, or worthless. I believe that we have an obligation to help people who are suffering. That's why I became a but our efforts as mental health indulgents are limited. We can't always give people the help they need. We're all human, and we all have limitations. Sometimes we don't have the resources or the expertise to help people. Sometimes we're not even asked to help. But we should never forget the power of the Holy Spirit. When I meet someone who believes in the Holy Spirit, I ask them to pray with me. Prayer is such a powerful thing. The comfort I receive from prayer cannot be matched by anything else. People who pray have something to live for. They have hope, and hope is essential to healing. If you like this video, subscribe and like. Thanks for watching. See you next time.